All right, so next up we've got the leg extension. So really good output exercise, or even for beginners as well, if you just need to put work into a particular muscle, but the complexity of it's really low. It has its own intricacies in terms of setup and stuff, but generally, like, most people can do this particular exercise unless they've got like some form of like limitation in the knee. So setup's quite important, like everything. So I'm going to run you guys through like how we would gauge the seat first, and like how far or back that back pad needs to be. So you basically just want like this pad down the bottom here to kind of be snug into the back of the knee. If Ben was like, if that seat was forward and Ben came forward and there was a bit of a gap here, that could potentially create some discomfort in his knee joint, just because we're changing the axes of the movement, the distribution of force, or that moment arm, or the length of it in particular. So nice and snug in here. The goal now is to sit upright and pull ourselves into the seat. So we're locked in, because the idea is like we're gonna sway about just because we're always looking for efficiency and making things easier. There's gonna be less tension if I start to move on that seat, but if I buckle down, it's that whole stability thing again. So create some stability, be stronger, centralize the work and the tension into the quad. Feet position is quite important. So we want that foot, knee, and that hip to be in alignment. We actually almost wanna try to have some form of like conscious internal rotation, of the femur, because you're going to want to flare out. And again, it's all about like just neutralizing that tension, or like suppressing the amount of tension that's applied on the muscle, because we just like to make shit easy. It's just the way it is. So we'll get Ben set up, get him kind of doing the movement, show you guys the cadence of the reps and stuff. So toes up is a really good cue as well. Actually like does intensify the contraction. And you notice how Ben's kind of leaning forward a little bit, just because of the way like the quad crosses over at the hip. If we lean forward, we can actually get this quad shorter, just kind of intensify the contraction. And then we can even, as Ben gets fatigued, he can start to lean back, and it just changes the contractile range of the muscle, just makes things a little bit easier. So he's leaning back now, and the subjective difficulty of it lowers as he leans back, and he'll be able to describe that to you after this. Nice controlled lockout, good relationship to the knee joint here. Like this distance doesn't change, and that's what you want to coach. Like you almost want to be here, like kind of just making them very conscious of like what's happening there, because if we're not aware of that stuff and we're like watching the clock or just counting reps or whatever, you look down and those feet will be opened up. And it's just like, we got tired here, so then eventually we opened up just so these muscles here could do most of the work after those first muscles got tired. Anything to add? Like describe the sit forward and sit back thing.
Yeah, it was another like 6 to 8 reps just by reclining, so you're getting more work done.
Yeah. So that's probably something I want you guys to try yourselves before you go and coach it with anybody. Like it is amazing how much different, or how easy it is once you lean back. So if you set up there, you could be missing out on X amount of weight, X amount of reps, X amount of development as well, because like obviously there's hypertrophic benefits to shortening a muscle as well as lengthening it. I don't know if there's many other positions where you can get your quad that short, that contracted. So you want to be, when you're here, just maximizing the potential, the ability to do that. Yeah,
there's a couple of things I'll probably add. Firstly, from like that strength client point of view, is, as you can tell by my heavy breathing, not far out of a comp prep. So just getting into these positions, you'll see straight away like there was lots of tremoring and stuff, just getting a muscle short for the first time. It's actually a really good way to increase the range that you have available in that muscle. So we talk about building safeguards around movement patterns. If you only work in your squat, bench, deadlift ranges of motion all the time, as soon as you step outside of that, the likelihood of injury goes up. So it's not a bad idea in your off season to get into this really short position. As much as like, it's a leg extension, doesn't work for my squat, doesn't do shit. It's like, well, maybe just like moving a muscle through range of motion is a positive thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is like, I'm noticing as particularly coming straight off comp, super externally rotated in the hip. I have okay range, like the range is like still good, and I can probably externally rotate more than most people, but the internal part of it isn't there. So actually challenging this internal rotation and training in that position, again, it just gives you a wider window to operate in. It's not right or wrong, just gives you increased range, which is never going to be a bad thing. And then the only other add-on is like when we're talking about beginner clients, probably the other end is like, this is one of those exercises. Each one that we've done today has a skill demand. The leg press and this probably has the lowest skill demand. So instead of like learning the skill better each week, you can actually get in and do work.
Yeah.
So these, like the leg press and this, are going to be the ones that like your progressive overload movements each week that are genuine increases in like strength,
output,
intramuscular connections, all that type of stuff to allow you to really measure someone's performance.
Yeah, and bring it into a practical sense like we did before with the split squat. It's like you can still have like those squat variations, those technical, highly skillful movements, but make sure you put some of this stuff in there too, just to like, you know, lower skill barrier, but lots of output, just so your clients are working hard whilst getting skillful at the same time. Like, it's just all about program design.
Yeah, most Gen Pop clients don't want to come in and squat an empty bar for half an hour and go home.
Yeah, that's it.
Get them in, teach them as much as you can in a short period of time, move on to other stuff in the program that they can do work.
Yep.